You're listening to Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hayner.
Hey guys, Charge Hayner represents Zoom the TBT, and tonight we have a very special guest. We have Patrick MacWilliams of the UMass Collective, and he is here to talk about his involvement with the Commonwealth, the very new alumni team for the UMass basketball team. Patrick, how are you doing tonight?
Doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
So getting right into this, and I think Charge and I really wanted to have you on for a real simple reason. Is we're kind of fascinated with how the NIL has started to be a really big thing in college athletics, and you actually founded, sounds like, the UMass Collective, which is the NIL. Can you talk a little bit about what led you to found it and how you're helping the athletes at UMass?
Yeah, so I started it's called the Massachusetts Collective, not the UMass Collective, just for trademark and licensing purposes with the university. But in Massachusetts and everywhere, you could sign your first athletes. I think it was July 1st, 2021. And my business on its own, 5 College Movers, we signed the first 2 athletes in the state of Massachusetts, Noah Fernandez and Sam Breen at the time. And so I was kind of familiar with the NIL space as much as you could be at that time, as it was just all starting. But then last summer around this time, actually, I thought it was really important to have a collective at UMass, not just doing things, on my own for a business wise or having other businesses be involved. So I started the Massachusetts Collective the beginning of November. So we're about 6 or 7 months in now.
Yeah, and it's such a big deal with the TBT to have a good back and a good following. It's really evolved the past 2 or 3 years, especially with other teams and the cost of playing. So to have someone like the Massachusetts Collective, I saw in an article, you guys are in charge of all the operations, all the sponsorships, all the logistics. You're going to make a lot of GMs out there really, really jealous of what you're doing there at UMass. So would this team exist without the Massachusetts Collective?
I don't think so. It's a team that has been trying to be organized for quite some time now. Talking with Javon, who is kind of, Javon was a great player at UMass, and he's our director of player personnel. He's been trying to organize it with the other guys at UMass for, 6, 7, or 8 years, because our roster is a little bit older now, guys that played in the, 2012, 2013, 2014, but we do span all the different coaches in the past as well, from DK to Matt McCall. Obviously nothing from Frank Barton yet, but hopefully in the future we will have somebody from Frank on the team, because we want this to be a multi-year commitment from the collective standpoint and from the players as well. So I think that the infrastructure was the hardest thing. The passion was absolutely there from the players, but they're, 8 to 10 of them are all overseas during the year playing basketball. So it's impossible for them to do the groundwork. So I think having the operations on the back end from the support of the collective, and then our coach, Mike Mannix, as well, who, Mike and Javon really brought this idea to me. And I said, this is something I was thinking about, but doing in a couple of years, so being able to do it year one and having the infrastructure set up that we have now, we're really pleased with it, but it just takes passionate people together. So it's definitely for lack of a better term, a collective effort, but without the collective, I don't think their team would exist this year.
Let's back up one sentence. This is a really great story, but I think most of our people listening to this show, the dozens of listeners we have, are pretty knowledgeable basketball fans. But let's go ahead and back up one second. What does NIL stand for? Obviously, this name, image, likeness. So, what does that mean? What are the players being compensated for?
Yeah. So, for an example, for a lot of people, just think it's, hey, we're going to pay this kid $10,000, $100,000 to just play basketball, but that's not what it's about. Obviously NIL is name, image, likeness. So a simple contract that we'd have with an athlete, we either sign them to a short-term deal, which is just, an appearance, or, a radio ad read or something like that. Most of our deals are a year in length. So they include a lot more different things that we can activate. We've also done some nonprofit things with Sam Breen. We did a line of dog treats with Sam Breen that benefited the local animal shelter. We raised about $4,000 and sold 350 units of the dog treats. So it's not just about, paying the players, it's about giving them opportunities to monetize their brands and to build their brands. But so, we have so far, we've only been around for 7 months. We've had different unique deals with Sam, with the women's team. We also did a customized character line of t-shirts and posters as well. And then obviously with some of the men's athletes, we've done some bigger deals where they're doing a lot of appearances, and especially the deals that we have coming up In the next couple of weeks here, they're more in depth on the men's side, and then the depth of the money involved too.
Yeah, and right out of the gate, the Massachusetts team, the Commonwealth, let's call them, has been really well organized. You guys are really engaging the community through some Twitter Spaces. I believe I saw. What I liked was the uniqueness of people can purchase shares and become a backer of the Commonwealth. So how's that promotion going for you guys, and how can people get involved with that?
Yeah, it's gone pretty well so far. The way I thought of it was just one of my friends got into the World Series of Poker, so I decided to stake him for 10%. And the same day I said, hey, you know what? We're trying to raise some additional interest and money for the Commonwealth team, so why don't we do that? I wanted to make sure it was okay logistics wise with TBT. They said, go right ahead. That's a great idea. So basically we have different levels, kind of like if, you join a booster club at, UMass or Ohio State or whatever, there's different benefit levels. So if you join or if you buy a share at the $50 level, you get access to our practices and t-shirts, whatever. It all goes up to, as much as you'd like to invest. I think we have 14 shareholders so far, and most average is around, $100, $250 to get in. And then we plan on winning the tournament. So when we do win the tournament, they get double their investment back. So it's a cool way for them to, get involved as well.
Yeah, so just a real quick comment on it, Hayner. I know I said turn it over to you, but one of the cool things is, so for $2,500, you can get a bench seat with the Commonwealth. So I know some other teams have done that, but in addition, possibly 2 times. And this looks like a pretty solid team out of the gate. So Hayner, back to you.
Well, I just wanted to kind of get into this because I always find the UMass thing kind of interesting because Marcus Camby is behind him. And obviously, me and Patrick were talking about this beforehand. You weren't a fan of UMass when Camby was there. But how did you become a UMass fan?
I moved to Amherst in 1997. So that's where, for people aren't familiar, that's where UMass is. And I really didn't get involved with the program until 2001. So basically after they were really good, what everybody thinks, UMass is all about, Marcus Camby, Carmelo, and all those players. So I got involved with the team when I was in high school. I did an internship with the athletic department where I met Jack Lehman kind of in passing. And then I was more of a hockey player at the time. And, but I remember driving to hockey practice and I heard Jack on the radio calling a UMass Temple game, like just a knockout, drag out fight of a game. I just remember saying to myself, it's so cool that that's right down the road. Why am I not there right now? Why am I going to play hockey?
Was that the UMass Temple game?
No, that was a little bit before. So I would definitely been all in at that point too.
Hockey fight break out at the basketball game.
Does anybody know what I made this motion? Patrick, you know what game I'm talking about, correct?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You want to describe it for our listeners?
I wasn't there and I just see videos of it, but yeah, that's when John Chaney kind of attacked John Calipari in the green room. I actually got involved with UMass after all those times, and when they kind of hit some, a bumpy road for a bit, and then obviously the hired Steve Lapis and Travis Ford, and then Derek Kellogg. But so I've kind of never been involved with them when they were at their peak until DK came back and they had that nice NCAA tournament run. But I've just what Jack has always taught me, and I, like I said earlier, I didn't really know Jack that well, but he always made me feel like I was the most important person in the room. And he always just, the way he took care of people really was something that I wanted to be involved with. And, a lot of my really good friends are all UMass basketball people and employees at UMass as well. So that's a huge thing for me, and to be able to kind of be involved with that and grow this program as much as we can as well.
Yeah, all right, perfect. Yeah, let's get into the coach and the team a little bit. So you mentioned Mike Mannix a little bit earlier, and it is so important for a TBT team to have a coach that they can count on and lead a team. And so the good news there, Mannix was a UMass grad, and he actually has TBT experience with the YGC team, the Marcus Smart-led team. So they had a nice little run, won a game last year, got knocked out in the second round. So how important was it to get a guy like Mannix, and what's he going to bring to the table?
It was huge. And just having a UMass guy, he's the one that kind of brought the idea to me in the first place too. We went to a couple of games together this fall because obviously he's in the area of Wilbraham Munson. I kind of met him about a year ago, even before that, just through some miscellaneous UMass basketball stuff, especially when they were doing the coaching search, and they found Frank Martin, hired Frank. I was talking to Mike a lot during that time. But, Mike's passion about UMass is we wanted a coach that's passionate and also just knowledgeable. And has a history in TBT. So even the other day when I was going over some logistics with him and stuff, I was bringing up some ideas. He goes, I can tell you this is the way we did it last year, and this is the way I want to do it this year. So having that experience, just because it's different from hosting a prep school or a college or a pro team, and having have that passion and experience is huge for us.
It's interesting too, because TBT is basically kind of like a summer league on steroids. There's money involved. There's some high level pros, European pros, high level guys. But at the same time, we're not talking about something that's like has a long track record of people playing there. So you kind of get thrown together and people try to manufacture matchups. Now, there is a potential A10 party here because Rhody Way is also has applied. And that would be a very interesting thing to have in there. So how meaningful would it be to have URI alums, the Rhode Island alums, be your opponent in the tournament if that were to come true?
Yeah, we saw them apply, and I think that would be a great matchup too. I know, it's funny after we applied and once we, announced everything, Garrett Waller, who works in athletic development at URI and used to be at UMass, called me and said, hey, that's great. You guys got a team. Kind of what are the steps? I said, hey, you should get Rhody a team in too. And then a couple of weeks later, sure enough, they're in. So we hope that we do match up against them. I think they have E.C. Matthews and Fats Russell on the team so far, and I'm not too familiar with their roster just yet, but I think being able to play them will be a cool matchup. I kind of want to get after, Boeheim's Army too, and then Blue Collar U as well. So just whoever we match up with, it's going to be fun, but definitely having those built-in kind of rivalries already with URI would be awesome. Yeah,
and Boeheim's already just signed noted Syracuse hero Dwight Bucks, so that's going to be really interesting. But noted alum of their school.
Yeah, this is the most Syracuse team they've ever had known a long time, though. So it's could be interesting. I know they have their own kind of issues this year.
Milwaukee
with
is
NIL stuff.
Milwaukee is the Syracuse of the Midwest. That's okay.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about roster. And I know a lot of times when you form this team and you're on social, people are going to kind of clamor for, hey, where's this guy? Where's that guy? And for a while now, I've been looking for a UMass team with this great core of Raphael Putney, Trey Davis, Katie Lillane is what I was kind of always pushing for. So just people who aren't really familiar with the TBT yet, just so y'all know, Raphael Putney's been, plugged in with Team Heartfire for a lot of years now. Trey Davis is tight with the Marcus Smart team, YGC. So I'm sure you put those calls out. You probably tried to recruit those guys, but those are probably two of the guys that are most notably missing. So why don't you tell us about some of the guys who are playing now?
Right. Yeah, we're going to miss those two guys for sure. I think they're going to have a tough time not being on the team too, and so I know there's a lot of internal strife about them not being on the team just because they're already committed to other teams, and we respect that as well. But I'm really excited about guys like Dante Clark. Everybody, and Terrell Vincent, who we just got recently too, who's going to be kind of playing with Caddy up there. I'm sure they'll talk a lot of trash in practice too, which would be great. But obviously, having the opportunity to have Chaz Williams back on campus at UMass ever is special. And he stopped by my office in Amherst even last week. He's in the area now doing some AAU stuff, and so Chaz is the most important piece for sure. Chaz, Caddy, one of my favorite players of all time, Maxey. It'd be great seeing him again. He's just an athletic freak too. Lawan Pipkins, who played 3 years at UMass and went to Providence afterwards too. He was such a dog at UMass. Just so many. CJ Anderson, who was just an unbelievable person, who actually stayed that last year at UMass when McCall got hired too, and really held things together then too. So I think everybody brings something unique to the table, and no one's clamoring for, I want to be a starter, I want to do this, I want to do that. They just want to be together and have fun and talk some trash and win some basketball games.
Speaking of talking trash, I will say one of my worst ever high school dating memories involves UMass. This is 96. This is the Final Four team. And Memphis was, as you know, I'm a big Memphis fan. We both share the fact that we're both non-alum alums of the schools we follow. Like we root for schools we didn't go to. And it's funny because I had just moved to Louisiana, and there was this stunningly cute girl who was asking me for help for homework because I was a nerd, and I could have played it into more. But what happened was number one UMass was playing number 3 Memphis for the number 1 seeding early in the season. And as cute as she was, I could not have cared. And Edgar Padilla basically single-handedly pimp slapped the Tigers. Camby was a factor, but Padilla destroyed us. And I was in such a bad mood the rest of the night. Like I torpedoed any chance I had with getting with this girl in my senior year. Because obviously basketball above women, which is something I've never gotten past, even as an adult. So my question for you is, how can UMass cyclically make up for the pain they caused me when I was 17 with this team? Like why should I root for, why would I, as a neutral who's been scarred before, who's been heartbroken by the pain of UMass, why am I rooting for UMass this cycle?
Because we've shared that heartbreak too. I've been heartbroken by UMass a lot over the last 20 years too. So, we've only been in one NCAA tournament game in 20 something years now or something. So, this is our tournament now to move forward and really make some noise. And you've had a lot of years with these guys on the roster where they're so close, and we're like one of the first teams out or something. So we don't consider ourselves like and don't let me speak for the players, but like we were on with Terrell the other night. He said, hey, look, there's so many times we're close. We just want to like prove ourselves and prove that if we did get there, we could have made something happen. And so there's so many guys that are on this roster that were so close to making something really big happen at UMass. I think we have a unique opportunity, and that's a cool thing for a fan to think about as well. Like these guys really think about their time at UMass and what they want to do going forward.
Okay, I am sold then. I can definitely give you guys some love then. You talk about the idea though of making a run in this, and it's interesting because the problem with the A10 is one of the in the idea of the regions, what do you call it? The why am I blanking right now? The rearrangement, the realignment of conferences. The A10's taken a lot of hits. A lot of teams have left for other conferences. And it's become, unfortunately, a de facto one bid league, despite having teams like VCU, Dayton, St. Louis, really quality college programs. What is the excitement level with UMass's fan base over hiring someone like Frank Martin to move forward? Is that something that's helping drive some interest in this year's TBT team?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just as you can see, just for attendance numbers this year at UMass basketball games, I think went from averaging 2,100 fans a game to almost 4,000. Which doesn't feel like a lot in the Mullen Center because it's a huge arena. It's 9,000 seats. But I think Frank has really energized the program and Western Mass. And really that hire just really legitimizes, I think, what UMass wants to do. And the A10 really made some noise with last offseason with Archie and Fran and Frank. And, I don't think it'll be a one bid league for long. But you're right, because there's so many teams that have left even in the last few years. I mean, it's crazy to think like Butler was in the A10 a couple of years ago, obviously Xavier and all the other teams too. So, but yeah, Frank has really legitimized the program again. And I think this year we'll take some really nice steps going forward too. And having the TBT stuff in the summer, we'll do some stuff on campus with Frank. We're doing a 3-day camp at the Champion Center. So I know the team will be around before they go on their overseas trip. So we're looking to get everybody back together and connecting people that haven't connected with Frank yet too from the roster.
So one thing I would be interested in seeing, has anybody reached out to Bruiser Flint at all? Because he was obviously a UMass coach at one point, and also he coached a long time with the Drexel Dragons, who, by the way, also, if you do get far enough, you'd be playing on their court if you were to make the TBT semis. So has anybody thought to reach out to Coach Flint and see if he was any interested in being involved?
So Mike Mannix actually our coach worked for Bruiser at UMass, and that's kind of his connection there. And Mike worked for Bruiser at Drexel as well. So I haven't reached out to Bruiser directly, but I'm sure that that Mike has. I'm sure he's busy with doing his own thing then, but if we make it past a couple of wins, I'm sure he'll be there. I know that Marcus has expressed interest in coming to our first game, especially if we're in Syracuse. So I think on whatever it will be, July 24th or something, if we get in that region, then Marcus will be there, which will be awesome. But I think as we go along, UMass is really a sleeping giant. And so anytime UMass gets a little bit of momentum in anything, especially basketball, because it's a basketball school. I mean, we just won a hockey championship, but I tell everybody, even Carvel, sorry, Carv, but we're a basketball school. So anytime we'll get some momentum, everybody will be coming out of the woodwork. So.
Yeah, which is a good segue into region, which I was going to touch on. Obviously, you guys are applied to Syracuse right now. This time of year, things are very, very fluid as far as where people end up going, because there's some quality teams that will travel if asked to, if TBT. I think you guys are a perfect fit over there. in Syracuse. But we mentioned a couple of these teams earlier, but very top heavy. You got the champions Blue Collar U. You got Boeheim's Army, who's won a championship. Some solid teams in Nerd and Big Five are probably the top four, right now. And then where UMass fits in, you're looking at, probably 4 or 5 seed, YGC, HBCU, Indiana Rising, those type of teams, which Mike Mannix probably got a great look at them last year at Rucker Park when he was coaching YGC. So he's probably got some good insight there. And then you get teams like Peacock Nation and Rhody, where do those guys really fit? So I think obviously UMass looks a step above some of those teams right now, but it's going to be very fluid, but a very competitive region out there.
Yeah, absolutely. We're hoping for Syracuse just because logistically it works for us, especially me living in Saratoga. But yeah, we'll go, like UMass used to say, any team, any place, anytime. So.
It's interesting too, because actually you're a team that really probably needs to be in Syracuse because with your fan base, it's by far the easiest place to get to. And I think it's interesting because the reality is like some of those teams can move. Like, I think HBCU, they have a fan base anywhere, so I can see them moving. Because it's going to be very hard to fit all the quality teams in Syracuse, especially with the defending champs there in Cuse and the Nerd team already being in. So how safe do you feel right now? Like, we're doing a bubble special next couple of days, and we didn't invite you for that because we think you're relatively safe. Or what's up?
Zero chance they're not in. Zero
okay,
chance.
so Char says 0 chance. Do you agree? Are you that safe? Are you a little worried? Like, how do you feel about your bid?
No, I'm very confident. I think we have a great roster, and adding Terrell was really the last piece. If we didn't add him, I would say, I think we're still missing a piece, but. Yeah, I'm very confident. I'm confident we'll be in Syracuse, and that we'll make some noise there too.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, things are going to gain steam this week. Every team needs to have at least 9 guys on their roster by June 10th. So you guys obviously have already crossed that hurdle, and a lot of folks might want to get used to going to Utah. I don't think it's going to be UMass. I think they're going to end up in Syracuse, but Wichita right now still doesn't have 16 teams applied to it. So as we talked about people moving, it's there, but really like what you mentioned about being plugged into the community. That was going to kind of be my closing part, but you already kind of hit on that. A lot of teams are doing these training camps and getting engaged. So once again, if you haven't bought a share of UMass and you're a UMass basketball fan, you got to go hit their social media, look up the Commonwealth TBT, or the UMass TBT, remind me.
Yeah, the CommonwealthTBT.com, and then Commonwealth at the Commonwealth TBT for Twitter as well. We're sending out to all of our obviously collective members, just UMass fans in general. Then obviously anybody can hop into. We hope to have a pretty good both fans from the area, but then alumni too come back for those camp days. We're going to have one big event one evening that we're really excited for too.
Yep. So definitely check that out if you're a UMass fan. So Hainer, I'll let you ask any other questions or close this out.
I think we're in pretty good shape. Is there anything else we need to talk about here? Because I think, Patrick, we covered it. I think it's a really interesting story. It's the NIL, your collective. I think you have a very well-organized team. You're funded. So obviously no real concerns. You guys are just ready to play, right? Yeah,
we're ready to get started. I think it's, 50 days away now or 48 days or something? I had a countdown going, but I have a countdown for track season and that too. So I always get confused. But yeah, we're super fired up, and thank you so much for having us on here too. Anytime we could spread the UMass basketball gospel, we will. And I really appreciate your time and effort in this too.
Fans, it's only 3 hours and 51 minutes between Syracuse and UMass Amherst. So make sure you get in that car and go watch the Commonwealth try to pull an upset against the Boeheim's Army. Patrick, thanks for coming on tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
This has been Charge. This has been Charge 100% Zoom the TBT signing off.
Hope you enjoyed listening to Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hainer. Subscribe to YouTube, follow on Twitter, and give us your money.